How big is my ship? I've got Dawnsire's Sunstar Dreadnought with 17 charge counters on it on the battlefield. And then I drop a Bello Bard of Brambles. Now, since Dawnsire only has 17 counters on it, it is not yet a creature. But obviously, when Bello hits the battlefield, it'll be a 4/4 elemental creature. But if I tap that Bello to station my Dawnsire, what's going to happen? Will Dawnsire become a 20/20? Or would Bello keep it as a 4/4? Well, what Dawnsire and Bello both have are static abilities that are continuous effects. They are both continuous effects that change characteristics, they will deal with the layers. Now, usually, whenever there's two things trying to apply to the same thing on the same layer, we go by a timestamp system unless there's a dependency. And in order for something to depend on something else, the result of applying one effect could affect what the other thing is going to affect. So with these two cards, Urborg is the one that is dependent on Blood Moon. What? In this interaction, applying one of these effects doesn't really make the other one depend on the other. So we will actually go with a timestamp here. And because the static ability of these spacecraft always has those abilities, it's just not active until a certain number of counters is active. The timestamp for the ability that makes it a 20/20 is created when it enters the battlefield. And it would be the same deal with Bello Bard of Brambles. His timestamp would be created when he entered the battlefield. So, because we had Dawnsire on the battlefield first, we would apply its timestamp first, making it a 20/20 once it hits those 20 counters. Then we apply Bello's timestamp, which makes it a 4/4 in the end. So really, in the end, all it did for Dawnsire was give it flying. Now, if it was Bello who entered the battlefield first, he would have the earlier timestamp. And if Dawnsire hit the battlefield afterwards, it will have the later timestamp, and once it has 20 counters, it will be a 20/20 creature. Of course, in both scenarios, it would still have any abilities that were granted to it or any changes to its type. The only thing that the timestamps will apply to is whether it's a 4/4 or a 20/20.